The Orlando Magic last year had the 4th worst offensive rating in the NBA, and then on top of that, they were also dead last from 3 in every possible category. So naturally, to address this, Orlando picked up Desmond Bane for a pretty expensive price. So if the Magic were willing to give away all these assets for just one player, they obviously had a ton of belief that Bane's skill set would address this team's core problems. But from a statistical standpoint, the Magic's offense is pretty much at the same spot they were at last year. Now, before we look at how exactly Bane's being used in this offense, I first want to look at the 2 young stars, Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. The Magic currently have both of these guys locked up to rookie max extensions, which are worth over $200 million apiece. Regardless of what the Magic do with this team going forward, these guys are going to have to be the foundation to whatever this organization is trying to build. First, Banchero's still pretty young at just 23, but at the same time, he is in his 4th season, so the time for him to take a jump is right now. But it does feel like Paolo's game has kind of plateaued. Now, to start off with the positives, Banchero is a wrecking ball at 6'10 and 250. In the open court, he has a unique blend of size and body control. Plus, he can handle the ball pretty well with a head of steam. That blend of size, power, and skill kind of gives Paolo this Giannis and LeBron effect in transition, where he's either knocking you back for buckets, and the only real option is the foul.
Here comes the other Dookie, Paolo.
And when it comes to getting to the free throw line, Paolo is one of the best guys across the league, where he's taking over 10 per game. And to his credit, he does it authentically without selling out for calls. So at the very least with Banchero, you're getting a guy who's one of the most physically imposing drivers across the league. But that's where his consistent production stops. First, Paolo right now is not a consistent shooter. So far this year, he's shooting below 25% from 3 and below 35% in the mid-range. That by itself is going to handicap his scoring in the half court. And the other issue is because the Magic don't have a ton of other great shooters on the floor, it's pretty easy for the help side defense to load up the paint and funnel him into a high dosage of off the dribble jumpers. Off the bounce, I also don't think Paolo has a ton of shift or creativity to his game. Sure, he can throw together some different moves, but his body to me looks really stiff, and he has a hard time creating separation. Look how he's going to hit this dribble combination, but after this crossover, he literally covers no ground, and he has to dribble the ball one more time before he gets into his drive, making it easy for the defense to stay on his hip and contest his finish. So the combination of Paolo not being able to make outside shots and create consistent separation off the dribble leads to more reckless head down driving. And the quality of shots he's getting in the half court compared to transition is much lower. And the only real safety net that he has is throwing himself into contact and hoping for a call. Now, it's also important to note that with the ball in his hands, Paolo is a very good passer. If he gets 2 on the ball, he's willing to make the right play. That rim pressure is more than enough to collapse the defense and create spray out threes. Plus, he can read the entire court pretty well out of pick and roll. In the half court, this is where Banchero has been creating his most consistent offense, using those physical tools to pull multiple bodies towards the ball to then create advantage for his teammates. But because Paolo has so many flaws as a one-on-one scorer, most teams have been comfortable switching and letting him play on an island. Now, when moving on and looking at Franz Wagner, I think he's one of the most talented drivers across the league. At 6'10", he has ridiculous body control and playing downhill. He can hit spin moves in transition without breaking his momentum, use different strides and euro steps to maneuver around traffic, while also having really good touch around the basket. But similar to Paolo, when Franz has to go up against a set defense, that's when all his issues really get exposed. First, defenses don't respect Franz as an outside shooter. His numbers from behind the line are up this year, but the volume is still kind of low. And mechanically, there are still some issues that haven't been addressed. I've talked about this in depth in a previous video, but Franz has this weird hitch into his jumper, where the path from his hip to his set point has a lot of extra movement. The ball initially travels pretty well in front of his chest, but then he brings it back towards the side of his head to then release it back towards the basket. Now personally, I don't like to nitpick players' jumpers too much, because over the years we've seen a variety of forms work. But regardless of where your hands are on the ball or where you release it from, your jumper has to be smooth. The perfect examples are Steph Curry and LaMelo Ball. Steph has your perfect textbook shot. guide hand on the side of the ball with his right hand and elbow tucked underneath, while LaMelo has both elbows flaring out and is often firing up jumpers off one foot. It's pretty obvious that the both of these guys have completely different mechanics. But again, the common denominator is that the both of them get into their shots in one smooth motion. On the pickup, the ball is transferring to their set point with no dips or hitches. And they also have a fluid energy transfer from their lower body. But that's something that Franz doesn't have yet. And until that little hitch gets addressed, there's always going to be a cap on his outside shooting.
Franz has got to move quickly. He does. That shot misses.
So while both Banchero and Wagner have real flaws in their game, they're both still physically imposing and dynamic downhill slashers. And with the ball in their hands, they easily have the build to put a ton of pressure on the defense. So on paper, adding a guy like Desmond Bane should be a match made in heaven. He's a floor spacer, can knock down shots on the move, plus he has the game off the dribble to attack rotations. But like we all know, Bane so far this year has gone off to a pretty shaky start. And what's really puzzling to me is that Orlando so far this year has used him mostly as a ball handler out of pick and roll. And this is strange because the Magic already have plenty of guys who can operate out of these actions. You have the two max guys that we went over, plus guards like Jalen Suggs and Anthony Black. Now, it's not that Bane can't operate out of pick and roll. He can pull up from range going both right and left, stop short in the mid-range, plus he's a very physically imposing downhill driver. But the skill set is kind of redundant for what the Magic already have. And because Bane's typically the only floor spacer on the court, it's pretty easy to collapse the paint once he has the ball. As it comes off the screen here, look how the entire weak side defense shifts across. And Bane doesn't have the passing chops to make those cross-court reads. Plus the defense isn't really worried about those spot-up shooters. For me, I would love to see Bane spotting up and getting more catch and shoot threes. Right now, he's attempting under 4.5 outside looks per game, which is the lowest volume he's had since his rookie year. And that's obviously much too low for a guy that's by far the best shooter on this team. And because Bane is generally playing with the ball more in his hands, that's naturally led to him taking more jumpers off the dribble. Over these first 8 games, he's taken twice as many pull-ups compared to shots off the catch. And that's a pretty good reason why his percentages from behind the line are down. So for the Magic going forward, they're going to have to find more ways to get Bane more easy looks. And the best way to do that is to activate him more off the ball. The first thing he can do is just be your typical spot-up threat. Like we've gone over, the Magic have plenty of guys who can put the ball down and collapse the defense, which should lead to routine spray-out threes. Now, some of these shots for him haven't been falling yet, but this is going to be the best way for him to get his volume and percentages up. And then along with him being able to stick these open looks, he can also put the ball down and attack aggressive rotations. And as a slasher, he has a lot of really good elements. His full bag build allows him to explode through contact. He can rip into drives and finish with either hand. Plus he has the control to sharply change direction. I like this move here. We're off the catch. He's going to drop those shoulders and plant his outside foot, selling the blow by to his left. But when he feels Giddy's stance open up, he's going to snap this crossover back to his right. But again, like we saw with this game out of pick and roll, because Bane's the only real shot maker on the floor, the defense has no problem collapsing down once he beats his initial man. As he catches and rips to his right here, look how there's literally 4 bodies in front of him. And again, that's always going to be the issue if you're the only shooter who's looking to make plays off the dribble. So the question becomes, if you ideally don't want the ball in Bane's hands, and there's some limitations to him spotting up and attacking rotations, how exactly should the Magic use him? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is using him as a screener. And this does give the Magic a dual threat at the point of attack. If Banchero is handling it, that downhill threat often pulls 2 towards the ball, opening up these easy pitchback threes. But then if the defense hones in on the screener, Paolo then has a lane to attack the basket. So far this year, Orlando has had its most consistent offense through these actions. But the more you span the same play, the more ways the defense is going to find ways to adjust. First, if Paolo or Franz is handling the ball, their lack of pull-up shooting makes it easy for the man guarding them to go under. And then like we've gone over, because of Banchero's lack of shot making and creativity off the bounce, defenses have been more willing to switch and play him straight up.
Made it look easy. Banchero.
So Desmond Bane does give the Magic a lot of things that they're missing, but one guy still can't fix an entire team's problems. Both of the Magic stars are not respected outside shooters, plus there's still not enough floor spacing off the ball, which has led to a bunch of clunky and packed in half-court possessions. The hope for me was that Jalen Suggs and Anthony Black would take a massive leap as floor spacers and guys who can also break down the defense. But so far, they haven't really moved the needle. I think going forward for Orlando, they're for sure going to be active in the playoffs. Their size, rebounding, and defense can still give any team some problems, but their offense is still lagging behind. And I honestly have some worries about the Paolo and Franz duo. What they do from a bird's eye view is very similar. They're big, physical, and aggressive off the dribble attackers, but their lack of consistent scoring outside of the paint does put a cap on how reliable they are. And adding one guy to a team that put up league worst 3-point shooting numbers is not enough to fix the problem. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments who the kids should break down next. The kids here.